declare that a quorum is present and all notices have been legally posted pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. At this time, if you will please rise as Timothy Kelty gives the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mayor, please bow your heads. Good and gracious Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve you and the citizens of Freeport. Heavenly Father, I just ask for special blessings on all the employees and staff of the city that work tirelessly day in and day out to serve the citizens of Freeport. Please safeguard them and their families and watch over all of us. Lord, please be with us in this meeting and guide our thoughts and decisions that you might find them all pleasing and in accordance with your will. We ask all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
May be seated. At this time, we have citizen comments, and the first person that we have is Ms. Nicole Morales.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Hello? Yeah,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
got it.
There you go. Thank you.
Nicole Morales, 2002 North Avenue G. Got two things that I wanted to make comment. Number one is I attended the Dia de los Muertos celebration in downtown Main Street. The Main Street coordinator, I believe, is the one that was responsible for putting all that stuff on, and I wanted to give a big kudos to her. She did an excellent job. I was very impressed and very, I mean, that's what we do, you know, us Hispanics, and it was very beautifully put together. Anna, kudos to you. Thank you very much. Made me proud. Freeport, I saw some people that were not from Freeport there that I knew, so that made me proud. The other thing I wanted to make a comment in, lately I've been going to, I hadn't been into the City Hall in a while. Had to go sign some papers for the Board of Adjustment, so on and so forth. But man, you guys need to go over there, and that place smells horrible. Y'all need to figure out what the heck's going on, and I don't know what's taking so long to fix it. You know, all that stuff, that remediation and stuff. That's one of the things I do at Dow. And we don't play with remediation, whether it's mold, mildew, or asbestos. So something's wrong with that picture. Y'all need to really look into that for the well-being of the employees. So that's my personal opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Sam Reyna. Oh, okie dokie. Thanks, sir. Manning Rollerson.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon, sir.
I come to the council because on October, I believe, from the 19th to the 21st, we were without water, without notice, for 2.5 days. When the water got turned on at 10 o'clock that night, I videotaped the water for about an hour. The water looked like mud. It smelled like it come out the marshland. It stunks to the high heavens. So my concern, the water was off 3 days without notification to not one resident. Was the water tested? It didn't get tested after 10 o'clock at night. So I know the water wasn't tested over the weekend, and it wasn't tested at 10 o'clock that night. My family ended up at the hospital. My dog is sick because we consumed water that there wasn't even a boil notice to the citizens. And water pipes been busting every day downtown, okay? Who's running the water department? Are y'all just allowing the citizens to drink the water without making sure they test it? I don't want to hear nothing what Viola have to say. Viola have a track record right out of South Louisiana. And they were poisoning the people in Louisiana under their watch. And then they end up in Freeport. So I don't want to take the word from Viola Water. I want to know, is that water been tested at 10 o'clock that night on the 21st when we got our water turned on, finally? That's what I want to know. I don't want no letters from Kelty telling me where it's following federal guidelines. You can't tell me about federal guidelines when you see the water come out the faucet. It is horrible. And all we get from the city managers are jet setting across the world when he need to be in the city of Freeport. We pay him to be in Freeport. We don't pay him to be out the country. When no problems happen, he's not here. We pay him to be here. That's what we pay him for. Last time I was there, I wanted to give honor to the Wildcats. And I think you guys should be pushing to get that placard. Because what the black experiment in Freeport, the black experiment is non-existent since the 1932 segregation order by C.W. Collins of this city. And not one black person in this city that's being honored in this city stood up to fight where their birthright was at, but you want a honor for running a doggone football. It was more than running a football. It's about the legacy of the black man from a heinous segregation order in this city. And the black folks is the one that you have to look at because they don't care. They didn't even care about their own grandparents. So that's all I have to say about black folks in Freeport. But I really think the city should be held accountable for allowing us to consume that water without giving us any due diligence if it's good to drink or if it's not good to drink. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Next, we're going to presentation announcements. Number one is presentation for Employer of the Month for the month of September 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to invite Chief Motley to come up. And also, if you want to invite Lieutenant Chris Vieira, Ricky Swango, Justin Davidson, and Lieutenant Jessica Dyson. So every month, it's my privilege to be able to recognize employees that have gone above and beyond and done something special for the citizens of Freeport, and this was submitted by the chief. Freeport Fire and EMS was toned out for a female patient who is pregnant and is having contractions every 5 minutes. Lieutenant Chris Vieira, firefighter, paramedic, and Ricky Swango, firefighter EMT, responded by ambulance to the residence. The patient was assessed upon arrival of the scene. The patient's assessment was performed and then transferred to the ambulance for transport to the hospital. While transporting the patient to the hospital, the patient's condition changed rapidly in regard to the timing of contractions. Lieutenant Vieira reassessed the patient and then requested assistance from Lieutenant Jessica Dyson, firefighter EMT, and Lieutenant Justin Davidson. Both responded to the scene in regard to his request. This employee nomination is being submitted for those fire and EMS employees who faced a challenge of performing a delivery in an ambulance while transporting to the hospital with being the only attending provider. The teamwork of the Freeport Fire and EMS involved to provide pre-hospital care not only to one patient now, but two, mother and both the newborn. From firefighter EMT to firefighter paramedic, we are trained in multiple pre-hospital treatment disciplines, from trauma and medical emergencies, including childbirth. In reflecting over the history of the department in performing a pre-hospital childbirth, it is very rare occurrence, let alone having it occur aboard an ambulance. According to our history, the last patient delivered on board an ambulance has been over 17 years. In closing, I can see the expression on the faces in accomplishment to providing care to our community and to see a newborn being delivered. This call is not just to recognize a specific employee, but their teamwork on the event. And I trust both the mother and child are doing well. I just want to, Lieutenant Vieira has already been nominated and received Employee of the Month, so at this point right now, I'm going to be recognizing Lieutenant Dyson and thank you, Lieutenant Davison, for their great job, and I really, really want to appreciate and say thank you for all you do. Thank you all very, very much. Yes, I also wanted, in light of next Monday being Veterans Day, we have a number of employees that are veterans, and I just want to recognize them for their commitment to our country as well as to our city. And they include Christopher Valderrama, of the Fire Department, Curtis Land and Daniel Reyna, Teresa LeBlanc of the Police Department, and Robert Johnson and Katie Ellis of the EDC. Thank you all for your service and your commitment to both our country and our city.
Next, we have a presentation by Chief Motley on employee recognition for the Texas Fire Chief Academy graduate. Chief Motley.
We've been faithfully practicing or training for where we're going with our department, and one of those things is attending the Texas Fire Chiefs Association and the Chiefs Academy with it. Myself and Chief Schaefer, my fire marshal, graduated from that program last year. It's a 2-year program, and you go through several of the topics that you face, from administration to the response and even trends in the community or even in the state of Texas. So my Deputy Chief, Michael Preslick, if you can come forward, I want to recognize him tonight. He is our 3rd graduate of this program. So we all have the same training to understand better on the fire service administration and response. So today was recognizing that Mike has graduated the program.
Next, we have a presentation of the invest report for the quarter ending September 30th, 2023, the fourth quarter fiscal year 2023. Kathy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
evening.
Before you is the investment report for the quarter ending June 30th of 2022. At that time, we have almost $24.4 million in the bank and the 2 pools. As interest rates are hovering a little over 5% and continue to keep going up, and we're collateralized in the bank at 150% of the deposits.
And the total amount of interest that has been earned? Over $1 million?
No, not over $1 million. We're sitting at probably close to almost $300,000 in interest earned this year, which we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Council, do you have any questions? If not, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Number 4, annual presentation update regarding Freeport Mud number 1. Councilman Pena.
Yeah, I actually got an email on this here late last week, and I communicated to City Manager Tim Kelty that I would be traveling this weekend, and 2 things. To postpone it to the next meeting, number 1, but also that there is a meeting this coming Thursday, which is actually going to be the year-end meeting, and a more meaningful report and update can be given once that meeting is held. So in terms of any presentation this evening, I would again ask that we put it on the next agenda. Thank you.
All right, we will move this to the next agenda item. Thank you, sir. Consent agenda, number 5 and 6, consideration of possible action on the approval of city council meeting minutes from October 16th, 2023, and consideration of possible action by city council approving the sale of trust property located at 1322 West 7th Street, Block 140, Lot 14.
Mayor, can we pull that number 6 out?
All right, we'll pull number 6 out. Is there a motion on number 5?
I make a motion to approve number 5.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Matamoros to approve number 5. Do we have a second?
No, second it, Mayor.
We have a second from Councilman Kane. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Council business regular session number 6, consideration of possible action by City Council approving sale of trust property located at 1322 West 7th Street, Freeport, Block 140, Lot 14. Councilman Pena, you have some questions.
Yes, I was just curious on this particular property here, if there was an appraisal ordered.
It's through the tax resale, so I don't believe that they do that. I think they just take whatever the bid is and present it to the taxing entities.
So as it states in the packet, this is a property that the county is sending up for tax sale. And when they do that, they put it up for auction, and before they do that, they get authorization from each of the taxing entities that are impacted by that property.
And so the sale price here would be the $9,975 for that lot, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The city would recognize
But yeah, we only receive a portion.
revenue from the liens that are due against the property.
And it's currently, there's no structure on it, right? Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's any chance that we might be able to actually sell it on the open market and get a higher value versus at the auction.
The city does
It's not
not own the
ours to
property.
sell.
Okay. And then the second question is, who's allowed to bid on this particular property, and who's not allowed?
Anyone.
Is any council person allowed to
It
bid on
goes to
it?
the tax office.
Okay.
It's not through us. We just approve them.
I just want to be clear on that. All right, thank you so much. No further questions.
Now, is there a motion on this?
I'll make a motion
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
to approve, yes.
All right, we have a motion approved by Councilman Pena. Is there a second?
No, second it, Mayor.
We have a second from Councilman Kane. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 7. It is now 6:17, and I will call a public hearing into open session. Consideration and possible action for plat of Lot 1A, Block 36 of Velasco Townsite. In addition to the City of Freeport, a replat of lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Block 36, according to the map of record in Volume 32, page 14 of the deed records of Missouri County, Texas. Ms. Roman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
This property is located at South Avenue F and Archer Street inside the city of Freeport city limits. It's currently zoned R2, and it's going to remain in R2. The owner wants to build one single-family home on the property. He's already hired a builder, local Willie Garcia, and the owner is Jarrett Williams of Freeport. Now, Planning and Zoning has already heard the request for replat, and on Tuesday, October 24th, they voted to approve the replat.
All right. Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Roman or the members of the public? Any questions for Ms. Roman? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 6:19, and we'll open it up for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the replat.
We have a motion from Councilman Matamoros to approve the replat. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a second from Councilman Rosso. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 8, it is now 6:20 p.m., and let the minutes reflect, Chris, as I will open up the public hearing for consideration of possible action for replats of lots 1 through 8 and lots 17 through 20, Block 739 to be renamed lots 1A, Block 739, which is approximately .5797 acres, and Lot 17A, Block 739, which is .0721 acres, subject lots being of the Velasco town size recorded on volume 32, page 14 in the Missouri County Deed Records in the ST Angera Survey Abstract 8, City of Freeport, Missouri County, Texas. Ms. Roman.
Yes, this one is going to be located at 1417 North Brazosport Boulevard. It's the intersection of North Avenue G and Terry. This one's kind of exciting. It's going to be at over an 8,000 square foot facility, which will include a small grocery store and a couple of spaces for rent. The owner is, let me see, Gul Jabin Khan of Lake Jackson, Texas. And the only thing holding him up on the development is the replat of the property. So Planning and Zoning heard the request on Tuesday, October 24th, and they voted to approve the replat.
All right, council, do you have any questions for Ms. Roman on this matter or members of the public? Hearing none, it is now 6:21, and I will close the public hearing and I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the replat.
All right, we have a motion to approve the replat by Councilman Matamoros. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
We have a second from Councilman Kane. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. It is now 6:22, and I will open up another public hearing, consideration of possible action regarding ordinance number 2023-2712, proposing changes to City of Freeport zoning ordinance, amending section 155.501, standards for residential infill development to allow single-family residents and carports to be built on single 25-foot lots. Ms. Roman, before you get into this, let me go ahead and get some citizen comments on this. Ms. Melanie Oldham, you were first, please, ma'am. Okay.
Good evening, Melanie Oldham, 1206 West Broad.
Good evening.
Good evening. When I was on the Planning Commission for about a year, and the commission worked with a consultant to rewrite the zoning ordinances and the subdivision ordinances, we heard a lot of conversation about developing, building on 25-foot lots. There was different opinions on the Planning Commission at the time, and the public we talked to, there was a lot of different opinions on that. There was pros and cons, and at the time, I felt that there was more cons than pros. But it looks like our Planning Commission we have now, under the leadership of Andrew Deal, has come up with a compromise, and that is that people would be allowed to build on some 25-foot lots that have an alley and different specifications, but it would have to be a specific use permit that would come before, I guess, planning and the city council. So anyway, I think it's a good compromise, but, according to what planning decided, all that criteria would have to apply before it was approved, a special use permit.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Scott McKay.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, sir.
I'm Scott McKay. I'm the builder of, the owner of Simple Homes, and I've built two of these homes on the 25-foot lots over here on North Avenue C. And I also am very supportive of this ordinance. It does give people from, the builder standpoint as well as the neighbors the opportunity to speak about their concerns, but also allows me as a builder to show the people this is what we can do on these lots, and that they have reduced the size to 850 square feet. I believe that we can actually build a one-story to fit within there. And the whole purpose of doing this is to build more affordable homes within the community. So I'm very supportive of the ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lamar Jordan.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name's Lamar Jordan, and I'm the owner of some of these 25-foot lots in Velasco. And as a property owner, I appreciate the consideration of some proposed changes to the city's ordinances that will allow construction of houses on 25-foot lots. I think it's only fair that the owners of property be allowed to use their property. We expect some limitations in town, but not complete prohibition from using property, which I think is what we have now under the current zoning laws. I've been to 2 of the P&Z public hearings. I was glad to hear agreement on smaller homes with required outside storage and changes that will allow for a one-story house that will hold costs down, that will allow for a more affordable one-story home, and that will probably blend better into existing neighborhoods than a 2-story. One thing that I was not certain about, I thought that a one-car carport was suggested with 2 required parking places. I'm not sure that's what I'm reading here in this ordinance. It seems to be reversed to me. There are probably some other suggestions that I would like. There was a good deal of discussion between the P&Z commissioners that did not favor carports in the front. The solution was only to allow these homes on 25-foot lots where there's an alley, so that the carport will be in the back. Well, that's fine when there's an alley, but what about the 25-foot lots that are not on an improved developed alley? I mean, everything has a 30-foot right-of-way for an alley, but many have no gravel, no pavement, no real access from the rear. So it was suggested that the builder could construct an alleyway for real rear access, but actually for one 25-foot lot that may be in the middle of the block, it's really not feasible. For one house, that would be cost prohibitive. You could tell by Mr. Kelty's comments at the first meeting that more alleys for the city to maintain was not his preferred solution to this problem. Possibly you could not allow outdoor storage under a carport that's in front. It's for vehicle only. A required outdoor storage area is already a part of this proposal. There has to be a more reasonable solution to lots with no viable rear access. In the end, at the end of the P&Z meeting, the vice chairman, Eric Hayes, said that these proposals are a step in the right direction, and I'll agree with him. It's one small step, and I appreciate their work on this, and I appreciate your consideration of it.
Thank you, sir. All right, counsel, Ms. Roman, if you'd please take the mic. Oh, Manning, did you have something you wanted to say on this?
Well, I'm gonna be straight up honest because I'm the one bought that 536 on Avenue D. And I paid all that money for that land, and I was told I couldn't build a house on it because it was 2 25-foot lots. Now, I'm kind of concerned how we're gonna change the ordinance for Eric Hayes and his friends and his builders when the citizens that was here wanted to do the same thing the council did not agree with. Because Troy Brimage was up here, and that's how that changed in the first place. So now I'm kind of concerned, why is it being changed when the citizens wanted that a while back? That's not helping me to get my property back that I sold because I couldn't build on it. But now the city's okay with building homes on the 25-foot lot. Why? We need the homes, don't get me wrong, we need the homes, but I'm kind of concerned why is this being done all of a sudden? We've been asking for this for years. And just because it's Eric Hayes, why don't y'all tell Eric to move that construction box from back there?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes, it's actually open time for anybody. We're still in a public hearing. Ms. Roman, if you'll take the mic, please. Yes, sir, Councilman.
I actually just want to ask Mr. Rollerson, that he just made a statement that I'm kind of taken aback by. Mr. Rollerson, are you stating that Eric Hayes has 25-foot lots?
No, I stated that.
Go, Manny, come on up to the mic, I guess. We're going to do this.
I stated that Eric Hayes had a construction box behind his house in the yard, one of them 18-wheeler boxes, And I thought that was zoned, you couldn't put them in your yard, but it's being done for Eric Hayes.
Okay, so you're not stating that Eric Hayes he owns 25-foot
No,
lots?
I didn't,
Okay.
I'm not stating that.
Okay.
All right, anything else, please? What does outdoor storage mean?
Planning and zoning was concerned that the way the homes are built now, that there would, if you had a lawnmower.
Yeah, so what does it
you would-
mean? I know what it means, but what I'm asking you what it legally means.
Well, they were talking about a closet. Some homes have an actual closet that's accessible from the exterior, as long as there's an area to store outdoor equipment, which could be a shed, it could be in addition to the carport, as long as it provides some type of outdoor storage. And we talked to the city attorney that rewrote the ordinance, and he had defined it in there.
So does it mean that I'm not going to see a riding lawnmower broken down under a carport?
Hopefully not, but at least they have room to place it in there if they choose.
All right, anybody else?
And on the outdoor storage, it's mandatory
Yes.
as written?
Yes.
So under the current ordinance, single 25-foot lots are only developable if they are adjacent, if there's multiple 25-foot lots next to each other. You can build on a 25-foot lot that has multiple lots next to each other. What this proposes is to allow them to be built on single 25-foot lots with certain conditions. That it be on a developed alley, that it includes a two-car carport in the rear facing the alley, as well as outdoor storage. There are certain square footage requirements that would potentially allow for a single story development on
850 square foot minimum now.
25-foot lot. There is a reduced front yard setback. Most properties currently require 25-foot yard setback. This requires a 15-foot front yard setback. And then it also requires that it receive a specific use permit from the
Planning and
Plan
zoning.
Commission. And that decision would be final. It would require notice to all the adjacent property owners that this application was being made, so that they would have opportunity to come and comment on that particular application before a decision is made.
Mayor, I appreciate the effort that was put into this by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I understand there were several meetings and there was quite a bit of back and forth. I'm curious as some of the feedback that was given about the only being able to develop when there's an accessible alley. What was the reasoning behind that?
It was kind of twofold. There were citizens on the other side of town that were uncomfortable with a home that small being built, amongst a larger homes, and they were afraid it would lower their property values. And then there was quite a bit of discussion about how a carport would look in the front instead of in the back. We can't, on a 25-foot lot, there's no way to put a carport in the back and fit a driveway going around the house with the size restrictions. So if you limit carports to the backyard, then you have to have an alley to access it.
And realize the current ordinance actually requires a garage, not a
Yes.
carport. So this would be an exception. We did get a variance request for the two that were built on Avenue C
Yes.
to allow for a carport rather than a garage. That was approved as a variance, and the attorney recommended that rather than doing those by variance, that we just include that recommendation as part of the ordinance, so they wouldn't have to come in for a variance every time. And the advantage of doing the carport on a 25-foot lot, it still has a 5-foot setback on either side. So that means you're talking about a 15-foot wide building. If you have a garage, the width of that 15-foot building, you're only going to be able to put one car in it. With a carport that is 15 feet wide, because there's no walls on either side, you could potentially put 2 cars in there and be able to open the doors without hitting the walls of the garage.
Roughly how many 25-foot lots do we have in the city? Does anybody know?
I'm actually not certain.
Then you're not going to know my next question either.
We have mapped that before.
I've heard over 50, but I think it could be much more than that.
What percentage of that do you think are attached to an alley?
I can get that information from Laura, though. We can find out.
Yeah, 'cause
There are a number of
There's a lot.
25-foot lots that are in areas that are just not developed at all, like along the P ditch, and in the area that we're working on with Mr. Matamoros. But there are others. So of the ones that are actually on developed streets, probably I would say at least a third, maybe half of them have developed alleys. So there are going to be a number that would be able to take advantage of this. We would be able to see some development take place as a result.
So on the two that were already built, they went and got a variance, so they didn't have to follow the procedures that were already in place. Should somebody own a 25-foot lot that does not meet up with an alley, they would still have the possibility of going to P&Z and asking for the same?
They could apply for a variance to put a, thank you, they could apply for a variance to put a carport on the front or a garage on the front.
Okay. That's all I've got for now.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Members of the public, now's the time to speak as well.
I have a couple of questions, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So I know on the properties that are on Avenue C, it was mentioned that a variance was provided to allow them to put a carport. And then the rule was to go ahead and put that as part of the new ordinance or the new planning and zoning rules here for 25-foot lots. And the logic was, let's go ahead and allow the carports so that any new development doesn't have to be coming to planning and zoning or council for a variance. Is that right?
To planning and zoning, wouldn't come to the city council.
Really, it had more to do with the fact that it's not technically a legal hardship, so it's more of it needed to be addressed legislatively. So it's more appropriate that the change be made at the council level if you're going to make this a universal change throughout the city.
Well, legally or legislatively, I kind of get the sense that they're used synonymously, but the point I'm really after is the common sense approach of that particular change in the ordinance. The common sense approach was, let's prevent new development from having to go through another layer of bureaucracy needlessly to put in carports that are cost-saving and makes the homes that much more affordable. So I like that change. And where I'm going with this is I'm curious what other variances and other changes that we can also avoid any kind of redundancy. And so I'm always a proponent of lowering economic barriers, market barriers, so that we have more development. And I know the discussion here by Councilman Kane, as he asked, was how many homes do we have that butt up to an alley that are 25 feet wide? And how many homes that we have that are 25 feet wide that don't? And that's a very important thing to consider because if we're sitting on 200 lots in the city, maybe more, do we have any idea in general what we have?
I'm not sure. I've heard numbers, but I haven't heard facts yet.
Any rumor that you can share?
More than 50 is
All right.
the general number. I honestly think there's more, just driving around, seeing the number of vacant lots without plans. I mean, I can probably tell you about 75 just top of my head in certain areas of town.
Well, when I think about the development that's the opportunity that we're trying to really take advantage of here, and that's so that we have new homes. And so if somebody has a 50-foot lot, they'll be able to come in, get a replat for two 25-foot plats, and get two new homes in there.
They could do that right now.
They can do that now. But if they wanted to do a carport in the back, in the front, there's limitations based on the alley. And I'm just trying to think about, okay, we're solving the alley problem in one way for the carports, but are we solving the infill development opportunities? Are we providing a maximum opportunity for the city to get everything infilled that is either backed up to an alley or not backed up an alley. And so I would recommend that we make sure that it's changed so that it's either or. Whether it's an alley there or not, we already have a solution that the carport can be in the front. And then I think about the new development that we're talking about over at the OA Fleming, and we're talking about over here off of Skinner Street. Obviously, if you have an alley, it's already been mentioned that city manager says, hey, it's a lot more costlier to have alleys and having to maintain them. Well, that's a reason why not to enforce this alley requirement, number one. But when you're really trying to increase density, we lose so much square footage in those alleys. So if we eliminate the alley requirement, we might have maybe 1 or 2 extra streets of additional housing. And so, again, I want to make sure that we look at that alley condition there and possibly consider removing it so that we can help ourselves maximize additional rooftops. And then last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, the specific use permit. I'm just kind of curious if we create the rules that builders and developers can easily look to, and we have a code enforcement department that goes in and looks at the permit application and says, okay, looks like they're checking all the boxes, time to move forward. Allow them to move forward. As long as they check all the right boxes, I'm not sure why we need to go before planning and zoning again for a specific use permit. If they're asking for a variance, sure, but to have that extra layer of bureaucracy built in seems a waste of time and resources for city resources and a waste of time of the developers who might want to move forward without having to wait a couple of months, having to go through that specific use permit process. And those are my points there, and I'm just curious if there are any other issues that we can look to or point to that might be easily identified so that we don't require a specific use permit meeting. And if there is, I'm curious what those might be.
That was originally our proposal, was to do it without a specific use permit, but there was a lot of citizens that came to planning and zoning, and they were concerned. They owned some lots right next to these lots, and this, I think, was the compromise between the planning and zoning and the citizens that were concerned, that they'd have an opportunity, if someone was to build, to come and voice their concerns with a specific use. Just with a straight building permit, they wouldn't have the same opportunity.
So what I'm hearing is that if a developer comes in and on, say, Avenue G, and they want to build 2 houses on a 50-foot lot, and there's 2 neighbors there that are been there their whole lives, what will allow those developers, builders, I think, who was the builder that was doing the one here, Mr. Willie Garcia, to allow Mr. Garcia and or for any of his clients to build there? Would it be simply be derailed because one resident says, no, we don't want that?
No, the way our ordinance reads right now, if you have 2 or more lots adjacent to, they can build like Mr. McKay has done.
Mm-hmm.
They can build right now. They don't have to get a specific use permit. They can just come in, get their permits, and then build. And that's 2 or more. If they can have 5, 6, 7 in a row, they're allowed to do that right now. This is only for the single standalone 25 foots.
So a single standalone lot can be derailed if one resident says they don't want it?
That would be up to planning and
That would
zoning.
be up to the planning and zoning. You know, if, when we send the notices out, we send it out to everybody within 250
200
feet of
feet.
that. So, you know, you could have 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 upset residents that were concerned about the plan that was being proposed.
Well, in the spirit of uniformity, right, we're trying to get, making sure that all the streets have infill and no vacant lots. And so, I mean, I don't know any city that's trying to prevent infill development. Obviously, they're looking to council and leadership, and certainly we may be at a different place than we were, I'm not sure where we were 7 or 8 years ago or when the ordinance was addressed that Mr. Rollerson had mentioned. But if we're at a different inflection point where the market is dictating, and the attitudes are that, hey, let's go ahead and try to get these 25-foot lots developed so that we have more ad valorem tax, then I'm just kind of scratching my head why we would not go ahead and just take that position to just say uniformly and unilaterally allow all 25 foots without having an appeal process unless there's a variance to what the rules we were having, that we were trying to lay out here. And that's my only point here. So hopefully council can help make some changes to this that make it a lot more streamlined and certainly a lot more development positive.
So this is an issue that's actually been before the city as long as I've been here. And if y'all recall, about 4.5 years ago, there was a variance request to build on 25-foot lots on a number of homes. And there was a full house, as many people as here tonight, maybe even more, speaking in opposition to that were next-door neighbors and across the street that were concerned about the development of 25-foot lots, disrupting the flow of their neighbor, creating additional on-street parking, devaluing their properties, and they were opposed to that, and those variances ended up being denied by the Board of Adjustments. This is a compromise because of the fact that we'll still be able to give those individuals the right to do that under a specific use permit. We'll still give the public the opportunity to discuss it, but this sets some parameters where it'll be less impactful potentially to the neighborhood and more amenable to the developers. As far as the city staff is concerned, we don't have a position one way or the other in regard to whether this is approved in what form, but I would recommend strongly that you don't take away that specific use permit from that process to give the neighbors the opportunity to not be surprised and come home from work and find construction in the empty 25-foot lot next to their home.
Manny, I'm sorry, your time is up.
I guess the last question I would have in terms of follow-up. I know obviously this particular item here was placed on the agenda, and I'm just curious if all the owners that are adjacent to a 25-foot lot are aware that we are voting on this. Maybe they might be opposed to it as well. And
There was a lot of citizens, it's gone before planning and zoning 3 or 4 times now, and there was a lot of citizen input during that. Some of it was packed and then kind of dwindled as the topic wore on. So they've definitely had an opportunity to speak.
So can I make a comment if you're done? This has been a hot topic. I was actually at that 2019 meeting. I was one of the residents. That's my very first meeting into city government because they wanted to build a 25-foot house on a 25-foot lot next to my house, and I didn't want it. This is a compromise. There were 32 people there. Majority of these 25-foot pieces of property are within the Ward C area. And when this came up in front of planning and zoning the first time recently, there were quite a few people here. I spoke to them, and I asked if we could come with a compromise, if they would be in favor of it. And the compromise was alleys in the back, because they did not want a carport on a 25-foot lot in a existing subdivision or neighborhood that their houses have been there for over 50, 60 years. If they did not receive the alley portion in the back, they would be up here right now voicing their concerns. And so this was the compromise that we came up with, was if there was a developed alley in the back, then they would be okay with it as long as it fit within the setbacks that are in front of us. And there would be no carports in the front, because a carport would change the entire look of that neighborhood. And so when I brought this to them, they were okay with it. I presented it to the planning and zoning as a resident and council member, and planning and zoning said this would be a good compromise. And so without that clause of having an alley in the back, I could not be for it, and I know all those residents, all 30 plus of them, would be up here at every single meeting voicing their displeasure to us. Because that was the number one thing, was they don't want to see all the parking in the front. And if you go on Avenue G, it has an alley on the back. Avenue H has an alley in the back, a developed alley. But if you go to Avenue L, M, N, O, P, all the way, there's no developed alleys. And that's where a lot of those 25-foot pieces of property are within. And so we don't want to see a carport where nobody else has a carport in their front yard. Because you're going, and with the size of the streets, you're going to have people parking in the street, which is going to create a hazard. And so this is a compromise that I think is good for the city. It will allow us to start developing some of those 25-foot properties and see how it goes. And one of the another issues why they ask for a specific use is, yes, we do have builders like Mr. McKay and Simple Homes who are doing the right thing, but we don't want to have a builder come into our city and not do the right thing and put up a shotgun house in between this established houses. And so that gives us a little bit more protection, the residents, of, hey, they can voice their concerns. So that's, as long as this ordinance stays as is, I would be okay with it, and I'm sure the rest of those residents would also too.
You know, I agree with you on the specific use, okay? One question I have is, do we have to make a carport required?
No.
Because that's one thing that I'm hearing from Mr. Matamoros, and he was talking to several citizens about it, and that they don't want to see a carport up front. So a nice new home on a 25-foot lot without a carport up front might be
I agree.
appealing.
And it could be, because part of their intent, the ordinance right now reads that a one-car garage is required. It might, and I wasn't here when that was all being deliberated, but it could have been because of outdoor storage more than even a car. And because you're requiring outdoor storage, you may not necessarily have to have a carport. I mean, if that was the intent, somewhere to put the lawnmower and the yard equipment without junking up the yard, if you require a shed or an outdoor closet, that takes care of that. So the garage or carport requirement could be up to y'all.
And one of the things in regard to that also, with the alley, requirement of the development alley, it prevents, if somebody develops on a street that doesn't have an alley, that doesn't put in a carport, with a 16-foot setback, there isn't a lot of, you're going to end up with a lot of on-street parking as a result of those types of development. So some of our streets are pretty narrow, especially for emergency vehicles, if you have cars parked on both sides. And so whether you have the carport or not, the rear access and drive, to have a driveway and parking in the rear, I think is going to be important.
One of the things that you could do is change that building setback. If they do not have parking in the rear, then they're required to have a 25-foot building setback, because that would allow for 2 cars in a parking space and not street parking. So you could make that change, that
That's
if there's no parking in the back, you got a 25-foot front building lot, but if there's parking in the rear, then you're allowed a 15-foot to shift the house forward and still maintain it big enough for that 850.
That sounds like good compromise to me.
That does.
And I also believe the intent of having the carport was for those bad weather days, a resident can get out of their vehicle, not be drenched, take off groceries and things like that. And so that was the intent of having a carport. And the storage was because we as residents don't want to see a broken down lawnmower or junk in the front yard. And the storage would help minimize seeing that. So those are the reasons why they had those items added in. So.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Is there anybody else in the public that wants to talk? Because if not, I'm going to shut it down, and then we'll go into regular session, and we can continue talking about this if it's just council. So anybody else in the public? Not anymore. It is now 6:54, and I will close the public hearing. Councilman Pena.
Thank you. You know, I was thinking, I wrote down the question here, if there's any streets without a carport that we're looking at and considering, and then it was mentioned that streets L, M, N, O, P, and Q, and R, I'm not sure which other ones are. I like to deal in facts. I like to deal in real data. And I also like real compromise. And so what I really like to hear was what Councilman Kane and yourself, and what we're talking about here, how to help move this needle forward so that we can improve and enhance and increase density. And so I'm thinking, okay, if Avenue L, M, and N and O don't have a carport there, but they have 10 vacant lots, that's no harm in having the carport. But then I like the idea that, you know what, why are we making this a deal, an issue at all? Let's remove the carport requirement. I like the idea of moving the setback so that now folks can park more than 2 cars in their own driveway. But there's nothing that also can prevent us to say, if you own a 25-foot lot without an alley, you know, maybe we put some parking requirements on that. I think we just did that here recently with the short-term rental ordinance, and that we're trying to limit the density so that there is no on-street parking. Maybe those homes can be allowed up to 3 or 4 cars, or maybe 3, 2 in the driveway, 1 in the back, or 1 in the street. Or if they're getting a bigger, deeper driveway, well, maybe that actually covers 4 cars, and maybe that's the limit. But it's this kind of thinking that, and problem solving that benefits the city, and I'm glad we're having that conversation. But I'm more interested in removing the subjectivity, because when you get into the subjectivity and the what-ifs, it just becomes a bureaucratic nightmare, and for that matter, it gets very political. And then what we'll be hearing is somebody over here say, hey, over here on L, they got the exception, but what about us over here on M? And we get back and forth. I'm hoping that we can really create clear direction on this. But I also want to make sure that we also mention this very point. Again, I like to deal in facts, in truths, and real data. The truth of the matter is that any of these homes, and I may ask Mr. McKay, is that right? Have you sold those homes yet?
No, sir, I have not.
And what's the dollar per square foot on those
Hold on a
listings?
second, sir. Mr. McKay, if you're going to come up and speak, you need to come to the mic.
It's about 183 right now. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So the question was, what was the dollar per square foot on the current listings of the homes, and it's at 183 approximately?
Yeah, maybe more than that.
And so what's the price point?
199.
199. So I just want to state that generally, the overriding principle, and you could get this with any licensed realtor, you get what's called a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis. And you do an analysis based on the number of homes that are sold that were new construction versus the homes that were rehabbed or the homes that were not even remodeled at all. And the newer ones are going to always have a higher dollar per square foot valuation than the ones that were remodeled, and certainly more than, in terms of a dollar per square foot, than the ones that were not even touched, sold as is, where is. And so the argument here, and I just want to make sure we educate the citizens to not believe in these onerous and demonizing ideas that are not true. Let's deal in truth. These properties will not decrease your values. These properties will, in fact, increase your values. So I want to make sure that everybody's not dealing in myth here. But again, I just want to go back to trying to make this as streamlined as possible, trying to make as little regulation and bureaucracy as possible. And I like the compromises that Ms. Roman and Councilman Kane had discussed here in terms of moving the setbacks and allowing development on and for that matter, no carports on properties that don't have an alley. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass this ordinance with the changes that Councilman Kane and Ms. Roman had recommended.
I don't know specifically what that is. So Councilman Kane, you're going to have to tell me.
One of them was to eliminate the requirement of the carport.
Just so we're clear, there is no requirement that there's a carport. The requirement is that they have a one-car garage. In lieu of that, they can place a carport.
So instead of having a one-car garage, they would have no carport for the 25-foot lots? That's the question?
No requirement of a carport or a garage
Or
is
garage.
what I'm hearing.
And then the other compromise that we had discussed is if there is no rear parking, the front building line setback would be 25 foot. If there is rear parking, the front building line setback could be 15 foot to allow for the house to shift forward and more area in the rear. Does that sound like?
That sounds right.
And that would also eliminate the alley requirement.
if
Which
they
will
do-
save the city money from having to build and maintain them.
Okay, that's a yes. All right, so knowing, are those the two changes you're talking about?
What Councilman Kane and Ms. Roman just
No,
said.
you're making a motion, is that?
Yes, those are the
what
two.
you're- Those are the
Yes,
two
sir.
changes you're talking about, all right. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All right. Further discussion?
Yes, Mayor. I can't, in good conscience, go to the residents who I represent and tell them that this was changed. And so I would like to see this motion removed. Let's table it. Let all those residents who voice their concerns come. Y'all can hear their concerns. Because this is different than what they were looking for.
All right, so there is a request to table the motion. Is there a, Councilman Pena, is there a desire to do so?
We can get an idea of how many lots there are with alleys if we do that.
When would we be tabling this to?
They're asking, Councilman Matamoros is asking that this be tabled, and I assume and take back to planning and zoning and discussion had.
Fair enough.
There's no need to go back to planning zone.
Okay.
I think it would be appropriate, though, since there are substantive changes being recommended, for it to at least give staff the opportunity to rework the ordinance to incorporate the two changes and bring it back to you so you can see exactly what it looks like on paper.
We have a motion on the floor, though, whether we just.
There's a motion on the floor. All I'm requesting or asking is, there's been a request by Councilman Matamoros to table this. It is your call, sir.
I like it the way it is. I'd like for us to go ahead and vote on it.
All right, very good. We have a motion with those two changes. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right, so it fails 3-2. So the motion fails 3-2. Is there a second motion to be made?
I'd like to table this to, do I have to specify how long the meet?
No, I think just table it to allow staff to come back at the next regular council meeting with suggested revisions.
Table it to the next council meeting for staff to make the necessary revisions.
Can I make a request of that motion that it goes to planning and zoning first?
You can, but we're just tabling.
It's not legally required, but
Correct.
it could be incorporated as part of the motion if the movement would like it to.
So we have, guys, everybody back off and chill out and be calm. We have a motion to table on the floor. Is there a second? Yes, I second it. So therefore, we are tabled it till whenever, for whomever. There you go. Very good. Item number 10. Thank you, Ms. Roman. Item number 10, consideration of possible action on approval of an agreement with University of Texas San Antonio for development of design guidelines and comprehensive downtown plan for the Freeport Main Street program. Anna, why couldn't you get something, why do you have to be University of Texas? Why couldn't it have been Texas A&M?
There actually are rivals as well at U of H, so
Oh,
football.
okay, all right, throw that out there.
So, good evening, Mayor and Council. Anna Silbus, Main Street Coordinator. Tonight, I am here on behalf of the Freeport Historical Commission and Main Street Advisory Board to recommend the approval of the sponsored research agreement with the University of Texas at San Antonio. Currently, we are looking at going into an agreement with UTSA Center for Urban and Regional Planning Research to develop historic design guidelines as well as a comprehensive downtown plan. This is part of our strategic priorities for our Main Street program. And tonight I do have with me the director, Ian Kane, who has a small presentation for you all. And in addition to that, just to let you all know, we have garnered support from the Economic Development Corporation, who has agreed to support this effort in the amount of $30,000. I know in the memo, it says that the city's share would be $30,000. However, it would actually be $40,000 because EDC has offered to contribute the $30,000 for this project. In addition to that, I do have the sponsored research agreement, the final version. They did make some additions as far as clarity, just for wordings, which the red line versions are there, which I can pass out. I brought enough copies for all, so I will do that, and then I will turn it over to Ian Kane.
Thank you, ma'am.
And while she's doing that, I will just let you all know that we had talked about this during the budgetary process, and the Main Street Chairman, Margaret McMahon, and the rest of the Main Street Board and Anna did work hard to find options in regard to doing this work, both from private consulting firms along with this Center for Urban and Regional Planning from the University of Texas, San Antonio. And this was by far the best, most cost-effective option for moving forward. And so, Ian Kane.
And just one more thing, in the contract, the red line version, it just shows that on page 3, item number 9 in the indemnification, the city attorney recommended to add to the extent permitted by law. And then on page 10, exhibit B, there is redlining, and it just said added word for clarity.
So both of the changes recommended by the attorney were incorporated, correct?
The first one was the extent to be permitted by law. That one was suggested by Mr. Olson. And then the second one on page 10, the exhibit B, that was incorporated by UTSA, just added for clarity.
Okay.
And I'll turn it over to Mr. Ian Kane.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Ian Kane. I'm an associate professor of architecture at the University of Texas in San Antonio. I'm also director of the Center for Urban and Regional Planning Research, and I'm here to present the city this evening with a proposal to produce a set of comprehensive guidelines for downtown, including historic design guidelines. Next slide, please. So I have only a few minutes, so I have a very brief agenda. I want to introduce you to 3 things. The first is the project team. The second is to give you a quick overview of the project itself. And the third is to give you a preliminary project schedule. Next slide, please. So let's start out with who we are. The project team will be led by the Center for Urban and Regional Planning Research, where I'm the director. We will receive consulting in the area of historic preservation from Post Oak Preservation Solutions of San Antonio, and will receive economic consulting from UTSA's Institute for Economic Development. And I want to tell you quickly about the first 2 firms. Next slide, please. The UTSA Center for Urban and Regional Planning Research is part of UTSA's College for Engineering and Integrated Design. We have core research faculty in the areas of architecture, urban design, and urban planning, and we really have expertise in 4 key areas. The first is community design, which I head up, also housing, environmental resilience, and transportation. And so the project that we're discussing this evening really falls squarely into that first category, community design. So a big part of our job is to work with communities throughout South Texas on community design projects that are very similar to this one. Next slide, please. Now, Post Oak Preservation Solutions is a full-service historic preservation consulting firm. They have offices in San Antonio, in Austin, and Kansas City also. But they're really experts in historic preservation, so we've brought them on for that reason. Most recently, they've completed historic design guidelines in Wimberley and in Georgetown, Texas, and also in Plano, Texas. So you can take a look at that work, and it's very similar to what we are proposing here. Next slide, please. So when you put that all together, this is the project team. I'll lead the project. I'm a licensed architect. Ellis Mumford is a historic preservation expert. She'll write the historic design guidelines. Tom Tunstall is an economist. He will consult on the economics of the downtown plan. R.J. Lee is an urban planner, and she will help us with the data and some of the GIS mapping. And then we'll have 2 graduate research assistants who will be assigned to this project. So that's our team. Let's take a quick look at the scope of the project itself. There are really 3 parts to the project scope. The first is the background assessment, the second is the downtown plan, and the third are the historic design guidelines. So let's look at each very quickly. I want to begin with the background assessment. Here what we'll do is review the current and past planning documents. We'll analyze socioeconomic data. We'll examine environmental and historical context, and we'll finalize the work schedule and the work plan. And the deliverables here will be a report with text and with drawings. Next slide, please. So the drawings that we're going to make here are pretty straightforward. You're going to be very familiar with them. Zoning plans, land use plans, but also we're going to explore some other things like cultural heritage. So in other words, what is it about downtown that makes it special? From our perspective, a cultural heritage, it can reside in architecturally significant buildings, but sometimes cultural heritage lives in buildings or places that could appear ordinary. Sometimes they're places that have significant traditions or programs. So we want to look at that. We want to explore that. We want to hear that from residents, and we want to include that in the plan. Once the initial assessment is complete, we'll begin work on the downtown plan. Next slide, please. And this downtown plan will involve many things, more than I can mention right here this evening, but I want to call your attention to 2 that are especially important. The first item is the public visioning sessions. Next slide, please. When we begin a new project or work with a new community, our first priority is really to understand the characters and values that define that community. So that means we have to tap into local knowledge, tap into local expertise, tap into local lived experience. After all, the people in the community know the community best. So we work hard to build these plans from the ground up. We try to get buy-in at every stage of the process, and in that way, we really design these plans with the community, not for the community. That's the way that we work. Next slide, please. There can be many outcomes from the downtown plan. One that's often very important involves improving the public realm. So the diagram that you see on the left side of your screen shows a summary of proposed public realm improvements that we did for another city in South Texas. Here you see the addition of shade trees, of seating areas. We narrowed the crosswalks at key intersections to make the streets easier to cross. We added rain gardens at key intersections to introduce natural habitats into the downtown and also to reduce storm runoff. The drawing on the right shows a proposed parklet program that would provide a shady place for people to sit downtown, also provide natural habitats to introduce new plant life into the downtown, also provides patio seating, so if there's restaurants that want to expand their outdoor seating, this is a way to do it. So look, this is from another city. It may or may not be appropriate here, but these are the types of things that we explore and look out for these plans. Next slide, please. The third part of the work, and this is really critical, are the historic design guidelines. Next slide, please. And this work will happen in 2 stages. The first thing we'll do is we'll assess the existing architectural quality of your historic downtown. We want to know, again, what makes this place special? What are the unique characteristics that need to be celebrated, saved, and reinforced? Next slide, please. The next part of the work is then to develop the actual historic design guidelines. And these will cover things like the facades of the buildings, the materials, the proportions, things like that. But they also include guidelines for the public realm, so the space between the faces of the building, the sidewalk, the streets. And so you see an example here from a set of guidelines that Post Oak did for another downtown in Texas, and you see that they're recommending the best materials to repair deteriorating facades that face the street. These guidelines would be adopted as an overlay district in your zoning code, And the last thing I'll share with you is a proposed schedule here. If we were to finalize this contract, we would begin preliminary stakeholder interviews and then do the background assessment in January and February, propose probably a public visioning session in March, work on the draft plan throughout the spring, and then in July, when we had a full draft, come back and do another public visioning session, get feedback from the community, revise the plan in August, and then submit a final report to you all on before August 31. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Council, do you have any questions for Anna?
I have some questions.
Sorry?
I have some questions, Mayor.
All right, go
I'm happy
ahead.
to go after anybody else.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, what was your name again, sir?
Ian Kane.
Mr. Kane. With a K?
C-A-I-N-E.
Oh, almost like yours. Thank you for coming out this evening, and I appreciate the presentation and the work that you guys put in there. I'm curious, this is a good question for Ms. Silvas. What other organizations were interviewed and considered?
Well, our chair, Ms. Margaret, she did reach out to, I believe, 5 additional firms. I do not have the names of those, but we did not hear a response from any of those firms, organizations. However, we did get a response from Ian Kane here with UTSA. So we took that opportunity to see how we could work to develop this project for our downtown.
Any other questions, sir?
Yes, actually, I have a total of 7 questions, but a follow-up on that one there is just so that at this point, there was only one organization that was truly interviewed and considered to work with the city of Freeport. It's downtown Main Street, is that right?
Yes, sir, because that was the only response we received.
Okay. And I'm just curious, Mr. Kane, what was your intrigue in responding to this, other than just a general solicitation? Or was there anything specific about Freeport that you just quickly identified?
Well, yeah, maybe one difference between us and typical, say, civil engineering or planning firms is we're a community design center. I mean, we're supported by the University of Texas. So we're really not out looking for work, so to speak. I probably do 1 or 2 of these a year. And so we look for projects that align with our expertise that we're interested in, where we think we can actually serve the community well. And that's kind of the way we decide whether to pursue a project or not.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Ms. Sills, another question I have here. Are there any, so right now we're trying to, through this particular study and engagement, that we're going to spend a total of $70,000 for, is that right?
Yes,
Are
sir.
there, and the resulting product will be, what will be the final product exactly? Just the design parameters for downtown or an actual plan of what we're looking to do?
Included in, with the memo, we did attach the RFP response that does list those items, which would include an introduction of our community, a downtown comprehensive plan, and the historic district guidelines, which it's several pages, 6 pages, that were included in the packet as well. We do not want this plan to go on the shelf. We want to really turn it into an action item with our Main Street as a as a new Main Street community. We are looking to actually have tangible items at work that we are wanting to complete within our district. And this project seemed like it was the best that fit for what we're looking for.
Is this particular plan looking to replace any current plans that we have now, or are there none now?
No, sir. I think what we have currently was in 2019 was the Kindig-Keys plan, which is a comprehensive master plan of the city. This would be focusing on downtown specifically, and also to see how we can incorporate that into our current our current comprehensive plan for the entire city.
That makes sense. Thank you very much. I guess the question I'm asking here is, this particular study will provide historic guidelines for the district, is that right?
Correct.
And do we have any now?
We do not.
Okay. And then the next question I have, this is my third one of 7, is this is a kind of question for Mr. Kane. The slide that had the public realm improvements, I like that slide because it kind of showed what the streetscape would look like. And I'm just curious, that particular plan, I don't know if we have that slide that we can move back to. One more back, I think. There it is. Oh. That one there. Yeah, I think that's a very powerful slide there. And you had mentioned that was from another city that you had an engagement with or a contract with?
That's right.
And I'm just curious, what ended up, so did that particular project get realized? Or acted upon?
It's a great question. To my knowledge, right today, that streetscape has not been realized.
Okay.
But they're pursuing various parts of the plan, and as you can imagine, you're talking about a wholesale kind of redesign. In that case, it's a 15-block Main Street.
Wow.
That's quite a large investment. So I think they're working on it.
Thank you. The reason I was asking is for 2 reasons. Number one, I was kind of curious what that cost might look like in terms of the scope that we're looking at. Now, so that's one question. But the bigger question is this: when you looked at this particular project, are we looking at what is currently defined as a downtown district, which has a huge footprint, right? Do we have a map of that? I think it's on that back wall of the downtown zone. And it's got kind of a finger zigzag kind of design where you have the square in the middle and a finger to the river and then a finger down to 7th Street. And I'm just curious, are we looking to try to do this comprehensive plan for the whole footprint of what's currently the downtown zone, or are we looking to try to keep it to the plaza alone?
My understanding is we would consider the entire downtown zone now, but I think I take your point is that, I mean, you got to prioritize things, and you have to present it in bite-sized pieces. I don't think there's anybody who would expect any city to rebuild or reorganize our entire downtown. I mean, we try to do this in a very incremental way, and we try to make it based on isolated initiatives so that you can start working on something without the thought that you have to realize the entire plan at once, because that's not realistic for any city, I think.
Thank you for that answer. I guess the next question I have would be, when you're looking at those types of engagements and then those types of projects for various cities, is there a best-case scenario and worst-case scenario? Like, I'm thinking like, well, you'll look at a city and they might think they have a historical district, but there may not be enough structures, and so then we come up with a design plan such that we're trying to prepare and plan for any new construction that'll fit within those design guidelines. Is that kind of the ideal worst-case scenario?
Are you saying that the fabric that you have wouldn't be sufficient to support a historic district? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, and it leads to my last question, and that is a question that we had with one of the Main Street directors from Austin. They came in and gave a continuing ed class to the Main Street board, I think a couple of months ago, up on the 3rd floor of City Hall, yeah. And the question was, do we have enough structures to continue our accreditation as a Main Street city? And so I'm curious, in that vein, from what you see now, does this look like something that'll be viable? Will it matter whether we keep our accreditation or not? Or will it help us if we do maintain it?
Yeah, these are good questions. The application that you made to the Main Street program is not directly related to the historic district guidelines that we would be developing for you. I think the fact that you are accepted into the program speaks well to the city and to the physical fabric downtown. So maybe that could be one indication that there's at least some people who think that it is significant. I can tell you, I've only been here half a day, but I think there is significant physical fabric downtown to build on, and I think it's worth saving and reinforcing from my perspective, yeah.
No, I agree. I own one of the buildings downtown, or a couple of buildings downtown, and I was one of the first proponents for the Main Street program, so I'm glad to hear that whether or not we keep our primary accreditation or secondary accreditation, there might be still an opportunity for us to change the streetscape with these plans, and hopefully we'll have the monies in budget, or we can figure that out at a later date. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 10.
We have a motion to approve agenda item number 10. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Councilman Pena. Any further discussion needed? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 11, consideration of possible action, ordinance number 2023-2713 for budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2024.
This is the first amendment for budget year 2024. This is what we consider the roll. This is any of the projects, most of these are projects that were not completed in fiscal year 2023. There are a few new projects that have already been approved by City Council, Super Feast, the FMP Kitchen, and the tank removal at the Service Center. But most of these are projects in our capital projects funds that need to be rolled because we haven't completed them or hadn't started them. There's some vehicle repair in the fire department, demolition of structures, that the POs were issued. Then we have the asphalt streets, phase 2 of the concrete streets, emergency road repairs, city hall renovations, the temporary station, fire station 2, the renovation of the jail, the ambulance, the second ambulance we have not received that yet, the appliances for the station 2, generators, an access panel at the PD, and then the 2 wastewater treatment plant grant, and generators for the lift stations, and then the sewer line replacement. And then there is a sewer pump that we have to replace. The PO was issued, but we haven't gotten that sewer pump in yet. And then, of course, the 2 other bond funds for all the wastewater treatment plant projects. We have spent all of the bond money from the 2020 issue on the street side of it. The only 2 projects that are still open are Pixie House and City Hall. But we have spent 100% of the street improvement funds, a little over $6 million.
So these are all funds that were approved in last year's budget that are incomplete, have not been completed?
They have not been completed.
That are
and we
rolling into the-
And we're rolling in because
new
I have a
budget.
purchase order for them, and we're rolling them into the next year. And then, like I said, the 3 additions, the Super Feast, FMP Kitchen, and the fuel tank removal at the Service Center.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion at this time?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
So I have a Councilman Kane with a motion to approve. I have a second from Councilman Morris. Any discussion?
A couple of questions, Mayor. Ms. Ezell, the net effect, basically, these are all projects that are coming in from last year,
Yes, sir.
going to be included and finished out this year is the expectation.
Yes, sir.
No
Well,
no additional monies for those projects from last year will be needed.
as far as I know, the answer is no.
Okay.
I can't make that assumption with the bigger projects that we're working on, the 2 big grants.
And all we're doing here is approving the amendments for the Pixie House, the kitchen, and for the tank removal, is that right?
Yes.
That's it. All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. It's my understanding item number 12 needs to be tabled at this time. Is
Yes,
that correct?
please. That is,
All right.
please. It will be on the next agenda.
All right, thank you. Item number 13, discussion and possible action to award a bid to the parent low bidder for WWTP wastewater treatment plant. Where do we stand on that, gentlemen and ladies?
So is Mr. Hun, David Hun is here from Freeze and Nichols. He has some additional information to share with council in regard to that particular project.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. We spoke this week. We've been working with GrantWorks. Katie Price was here last week, and we learned from her that the environmental has not been approved yet, so the authorization for grant funds has not been approved. So we can't award the contract without that. Otherwise, we're in jeopardy of losing the funds. So the concern there was the bids can be held until December 5th. What we found out last week is that provision is to protect the contractors and the pricing. So if they agree to extend that, then we can do that. The low bidder immediately agreed to extend it 45 days, which brings us into mid-January, around January 19th. Just before I came here, I got notice that the other contractor is also willing to do it. Doesn't want to create any problems. He's going to be cooperative. So I already have the letter from the low bidder. I have a verbal commitment from the other bidder. So with council's permission, I'll go ahead and get those letters, and that'll give us the additional time to get the approval to use the grant funds, and to give us some more time to look at potential cost-saving measures and funding. The other thing about the cost-saving measures, we're looking for a commitment from the grant people that we can reduce the non-grant items. We think there's an opportunity there. However, we need a definitive answer from them. So that's another thing we need some more time for, is just to get with GrantWorks, with the CDBG, and confirm that we have the line items we're looking to reduce are outside of the grant line items. So we just want to make sure that there won't be any issues should we find, cost savings there that we can take out of the contract to help bridge the funding gap.
Can you go over with council those items that you emailed me?
Yes,
specifically?
The main items there were two main items. One was looking at reducing the scope of the electrical part. Basically, instead of a full building with a motor control center, which basically are just huge, expensive breakers, going with an outdoor panel that costs less and would reduce the cost of the electrical portion for the package plant. That was separate from the grant money. So we feel that there's a strong case to be made there that could be pulled out without changing the scope of the grant. The other, which also is outside of the grant, is deferring the chemical feed improvements portion of the project and just rehabilitating the current chemical feed system. And that's about a $500,000 savings in that item. So we're looking at that also combined with a lot of this project overlaps with the next one, which is the miscellaneous improvements. So we're looking at that, how we can find cost savings there, and how to stage them. So we're building them where we're not building facilities in the first phase that may be abandoned later. We just want to make sure what we'd like to do in this time is maybe get with Tim on a schedule to look at several options and sit down and go over these. If y'all approve of us getting the letters from the contractors and extending that time period, getting a schedule for sitting down and going over potential cost savings and confirming with GrantWorks and the CDBG that we can indeed take costs out of the non-grant items.
So you did not mention the potential cost savings on the electrical building?
Yeah, the potential cost savings on the electrical building, and that's one thing. To get ready for this meeting, they were initially thinking that the savings could be, pretty significant, about, $2.5 million. Before I got here, they're still looking at their numbers, so I'm hesitant. They need a lot more time to look at that, because we were trying to get some numbers to run out here, and the numbers I gave you on Friday, they looked at over the weekend. And, they're still working through it. I got an email from the contractor late this afternoon, and he got an estimate from his sub. It was just a lump sum. He didn't know exactly what was in it. And, I wish I had more here, but he wanted time to dive into that. And so I'll definitely question him as to why the earlier number is so different from the one I got this afternoon.
So if council recalls, the total bid from the low bidder, Wharton Smith, was $13,761,000, and we are looking at some significant cuts from that. It will still be significantly over the original budget, but they are impactful, the proposed cuts. I'm excited to share with you when those get finalized.
Council have any questions for him? I would say that, we're putting on this every meeting, but I would say that to give y'all a little time, we can move this to December 4th, which is the first meeting in December. I'd like you back with the numbers and some specific ideas.
All right, and with your permission, we'll go ahead and get the extension
Yes, sir.
letters from the bidders. All right.
Very good, thank you.
Very good.
I've got one
Yes, sir.
question. Have you looked at their quotes and compared to what y'all originally had estimated to see if the scope that they are quoting us is what we're actually looking for?
Yeah,
Because I understand there's been inflation since 2020, but this is like 40% a year to get this much.
right. And part of it was inflation. Part of it was the initial plan. During the initial study, we had the plan over on the east side of the site, which the initial study didn't include geotech. There was poor soil there, so we ended up having to move it to the other side of the site and put in more piers. There was more foundation work in the design. Moving the plant to the other side required us to have an additional set of pumps since we could no longer go by gravity from one side. So there were several items. Inflation was part of it. Electrical costs were a big part of it. Electrical equipment's gotten expensive, and delivery times have gotten very, very long on electrical equipment.
Well, I feel like council wants to get it done right, but I think $8 million, almost $9 million difference is going to be hard to chew, my opinion.
Yep. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Item number 14, consideration and possible action of the annual appointment for the ex officio board member for MUD number one. Mr. Kelton.
So staff recommends Staff recommends council appoint someone to represent the city's interest as the ex officio per the agreement with Mr. Wong and Skymark Development. For the formation of the MUD, the city of Freeport has the right to appoint someone to represent the city's interest as an ex officio member of the MUD Board of Directors. That appointment would have all the rights and privileges of a regular board member, except they would not be allowed to vote on issues brought to the board, but they would be able to participate in all discussion. The Freeport MUD meets approximately quarterly, three to four times a year. Normally, they meet at On the River Restaurant, and it is, again, that MUD is responsible for planning and financing, including the issuance of bonds for infrastructure improvements for the 360-acre area north of Gulf Boulevard. Since the MUD was established, Councilman Pena has served as the city's ex officio member.
All right, council, entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would like to nominate Melanie Oldham for this position.
All right, we have a motion to nominate Melanie Oldham to this position. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
All right, we have a second. So the motion's made by Councilman Kane with Councilman Matamorris as a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, we tabled that item earlier this evening on the agenda. So if we should select Ms. Oldham here to be the representative, the ex officio member, well, then she'd be required to provide that year-end summary based on the meeting that's coming up this Thursday.
I would think that she would be part of it, but I'd also like to think that you would fulfill the end of your duty and have the report since you were there the majority of the year.
And of course, anybody's always invited to those meetings, ex officio or non-ex officio. No further questions or comments.
All right, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 15, consideration and possible action approving the special interlocal agreement for streets projects between Missouri County and the city of Freeport, fiscal year 2023-2024. Mr. Petty.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Last council meeting, staff brought to you the proposal for the 2023-2024 roads that were approved. As you recall, in September, we received a letter from the county, and they had changed the interlocal agreement that reflected that the city would only be allowed up to 4 roads, 2 miles, but only 4 roads, and only asphalt overlay. Mr. Kelty contacted Commissioner Payne. He agreed for us to move forward, as we have in the past, for 1 more year. I submitted those approved roads over to the county. They responded back with, you're only allowed 4 roads. I informed them that Mr. Payne had approved us moving forward 1 more year. They verified that information, they sent it back to us and said that we did confirm with Mr. Payne, but we are sending you a special interlocal agreement. Now, as I was reading through that interlocal agreement, it states in there that in the event the county cost in performing above described work exceeds $10,000, the city shall pay from the point of that time the county's cost equal to the sum of $10,000 of labor and cost. There is no way that I can guarantee you, because they're going to go over that amount with that many of roads that we have. So the cost that you approved for the roads is unknown. So if we move forward with that original proposal, just know that we'll have to come back at the end of it with a budget amendment for whatever those costs are that we will incur due to their special interlocal agreement verbiage.
When is the deadline on getting this information in?
It's due next week.
Now, I would also remind council, we actually while we approved the streets for the interlocal at the last meeting, I think it was back in September, we actually approved the agreement itself with the county, and then submitted that to the county, and then they asked for the streets. I don't know whether or not they went ahead and approved the original agreement. Do you know if they did or not?
I don't know. I have not seen the original agreement. I know the change that they sent to us in the original agreement was in September.
And I don't know what their costs are that they're, whether they're looking at labor alone for
Labor
this.
and costs and labor costs and for equipment costs as well.
So we already pay for the materials.
We pay for the materials only right
And we
now,
pay for the extra piece of equipment for the grading.
for the milling,
You know,
yes.
so I don't know how they will propose charging and assuming that cost. I just don't know.
Yes, sir. And like I say, it's something that we need to look at. I mean, we can continue with the current fiscal year that we proposed, knowing that a budget amendment will be coming in the future. They want to limit us to up to 2 miles, but only 4 roads, because they don't want to be mobilizing to different areas of the city, because the 21 roads is all over the city. And that's a cost factor with them, because it slows them down on production where they can get to their next cities that have their 2 miles, along with the county roads that they take. We can look at possibly doing 2 miles of alleys and utilize the county for alley work. That's an option. Or we don't utilize the county at all this year and use those funds towards bidding out some of these roads and subbing them out where we have warranties and things like that on them.
We had originally at 1.83 miles divided by 21 streets. Some of them were in each ward, A, B, C, and D.
So you're saying that this contract has to be turned in next week?
Yes, sir.
And who said that?
That's the county
Who from the county?
engineering department.
But they have a copy of the roads that we want to do.
Yes, sir. They do have the copy of the roads that we want to do. They just sent over that Mr. Payne, they confirmed he did approve it, but they also sent over a special interlocal agreement for us to sign. And like I said, reading through it, and I seen the labor cost and the equipment costs, they're gonna be way over $10,000 in labor and equipment costs, so it could double in price of what we approved.
Mr. Petty, what was the cost last year to the city?
Last year was 400 and something thousand. Yeah, last year was 400 something thousand.
So with the credit from the county, and then what we were due or required to pay, our portion was 400,000?
Yes, sir.
Would we, with this new special agreement here, are we looking to stay underneath that 400,000 or exceed it?
No, we'll exceed it well over that.
I mean, under the current contract that council approved back in September, we were looking at approximate cost of $344,000 for the rental of machine and the materials from the cost that they provided us. So it just depends on how much over that $10,000 that they actually go. Now, in the past, they've always done this work toward the end of their fiscal year, bleeding over into the next fiscal year. So I would not anticipate them actually beginning this work until, June, July, August, September next year.
Yeah, because they just started this past year, interlocal roads.
I would suggest to council that we could probably, I could probably have a conversation with Commissioner Payne to determine, we already have an agreement with them, for them to come back and revise that agreement. They tried to do that before, and he interceded on our behalf. So I don't know whether he's aware of this particular proposal.
So my question is, if we don't turn it in until November 20th, and we both have the opportunity, or whoever wants to call their former commissioner or soon-to-be former commissioner and get his say on this, and/or the county judge, I don't mind doing that as
Well,
well.
we have a proposal submitted to them, and we can get a hold of Commissioner Payne and see if we can get an extension to it as well. We can always withdraw our proposal and not do anything this year and forfeit our 2 miles to a neighboring city.
What's it gonna, how many hours are they gonna spend at least $10,000 doing 4 roads, 2 miles?
I wouldn't think so, not 2 miles, and only 4 roads.
$10,000 doesn't sound like it's really buying us much.
Sir?
The $10,000 doesn't seem like it's buying us much.
No. No, well, that's my suggestion. I think we hold until the 20th, and then we all reach out to our commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 16, work session. City council may deliberate and make inquiry into any item specifically listed as subsection under the itemized sections A through H below. Councilman Pena, Ward A.
Not sure really what the directions are here for the instructions to allow anybody to speak that doesn't have anything on the agenda, so I'm just going to go ahead and speak until we have our usual disagreement of what can be said and cannot be said.
Well, I think I hope you've learned it by now, but
No.
we've talked about it, and you can talk about events, you can talk about appreciation, you can talk about other things, but what you can't talk about is specific things unless you've asked for them to be placed upon the agenda. And I think the rules are pretty clear on that.
Well, I actually sent an email to the city attorney asking exactly what we voted on last time, specifically why we voted on the same ordinance twice, to understand really what the material changes were. And I've yet to receive that clear answer. In fact, the response was that I need to contact the city manager for that delineation and that explanation and clarification. But I'm not interested in getting an answer from City Hall because I've been making a lot of public information requests and I haven't been getting them in those 10 days that are required. And I asked.
And I would think that Councilman Pena, that if you want to talk about those specific things, that you would make a request or reach out to another council member and ask that your open records request be listed on the agenda.
So I CC'd everybody on those requests and I've yet to receive a response.
So,
Yeah, no, I keep trying to use the standard channels to get the information that's needed, and I'm not getting it. And so I just want to make sure I make that comment here tonight because there's still ambiguity.
You've made the comment.
Well, I'm making the last comment is that there's still ambiguity about what cannot be said. And you just said something about saying things that were appreciative? Is that an opinion that I'm allowed to give?
I think that if you want to thank folks for cutting the grass down in front of your building, that you can certainly do that.
So are they only limited to what you deem appropriate in terms of whether it's positive or negative?
No.
So I can actually give an opinion on something negative?
No.
Otherwise, you will be the police on what I say again?
Mr. Attorney, you want to answer that?
You can give an opinion on whatever you want as long as it's not something that city council could take action on. So if
I'm not expecting any action on during this workshop ever.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing.
I'm expecting that the issues and the problems that are being brought to me are addressed publicly here in this forum. That is it. That is it. I'm not expecting any action. I'm not making a motion after I go through.
Well, you can absolutely raise that this is an issue, and I would like it placed on a future agenda for discussion.
All right, well, then I'd like to raise it.
Specific issue, not facts.
Not what?
Not facts, specific issues. You're not going to get to grandstand and go into facts and...
Well, I'm not interested in grandstanding, I'm just interested in getting the information out, Mayor. All right, so let me just go ahead and start to say, first and foremost, thank you for everybody that came out tonight and spoke up.
That's good.
Number one. Oh, I'm glad I got your blessing on that one there, Mayor. I'd rather just stay on your positive side so that you don't attack me physically.
Okay.
Or try to, all right? Hey, when you want to control the crowd, or you want to just let it go on?
Oh, I think you deserve it, but let's go.
Exactly. Yeah? Well, just allow the reciprocal to occur too. Let it be fair. I doubt you'll do that. But let me just say, all this censorship and all this ongoing silencing, I'm going to stick to some positive stuff here. I'm going to tell you, this last Halloween season, we did it really good. I was really glad to see the participation level with the trunk or treat, excuse me, and really glad to see the participation level with the city. I unfortunately was at a Board of Adjustments meeting, and so I was not able to participate this year, but I saw the postings and want to applaud the city staff for all the work, and for that matter, the volunteer groups that help to put that on every year. Also, big kudos, as earlier said, or mentioned earlier, was the Dia de los Muertos by the Main Street Board and the museum. Glad to see that particular event got off the ground as we look to accent Hispanic Heritage Month. And then also a big thanks to all the residents. There were several dozens, probably over 100 of residents that decorated their homes. So I just want to thank everybody that participated on that do that every year and have that Halloween spirit. And there will be another one coming up for the Christmas season, and there will be a house decoration judging and awarding, and more information will go out on that. And then additionally here this month, the senior group is going to be having a bingo. So if you're 55 or over, please be sure to attend. It's a lot of fun. And that's what I have for now. I do have another comment here, a response. I'm hoping that I'll be able to respond to the issues here on letter H, as we're discussing the items in executive session. I guess that would be, let me just segue in for an executive session. It's my understanding, and this is a question for the city attorney, that particular item there, because I'm an elected official, I'll have the opportunity to have it either in open session or executive session. Is that correct, Mr. Olson? Because it is my preference that it is in open session.
It's this. Personnel matters.
I mean, technically, parts of that could be discussed in open session. There are some legalities associated that'll fall under attorney-client privilege, but...
I'm just curious where the slippery slope gray area is between item H and executive session. If item H is going to be a discussion, or only when we get into executive session / open session on that particular item.
Well, Ms. Izell will be given an opportunity to respond to some issues that were raised between the last meeting and tonight, just to give her due process. But if you want to talk about, really, the only thing we're going to be talking about in executive session really falls under how we deal with the complaints. It's more the legal aspects. It's not getting into the merits of the complaints. But absolutely, if we get into the merits, you absolutely have the right to have that discussion in open session.
It was my understanding that the whole conversation as it relates to that particular topic can actually be brought out to open session. I want to make sure that there's complete transparency to the public so that there's no back channel machinations, designs, or just politics that don't go unseen. And so I'm asking yet again, when we get to that topic, bring it out to open session, or for that matter, just make a letter I and then we start talking about it. Because I want to have a chance to
reserve the right. Again, there are some legalities that I need to get into as it relates to duty that falls under attorney-client privilege under that item.
Well, whatever boundaries and defenses that you need to help so that the city doesn't incriminate itself or increase any sense of liability, if we're in open session, you will always be policing that portion, correct?
Say that again.
That if it's an open session, that you will be there to kind of help give the rails so that the city doesn't get into any position.
If we were to get into the merits of the complaint and a response to the complaint, absolutely.
Okay.
We will not be doing that tonight.
So then we can at least go to an open session so that we're discussing this item, is that right?
For a portion of it, absolutely.
And what portion is that, to be clear?
The portion as it relates to the discussion of the merits itself, of the complaint or your response to that complaint. When it comes to legal obligations from the city attorney's office and a path moving forward to deal with those legal obligations and city's exposure, that is attorney-client privilege conversation.
But everything else in terms of the actual
I
material.
think he's already answered your question
No,
about 5
allow
times.
me,
No,
Brooks.
I think he
You know,
has.
I didn't go to law school like you, so give us a chance here to understand what he's
Well,
saying.
you know,
Let me
that's
say-
okay, but I think he's
I
answered your
prefer
question.
Olson to give the translation than you. You're not the city attorney.
Very good. Councilman Kane, Ward B.
Well, let me finish it up. I wasn't
you're done.
No, my last comment was, is that if
You're
we're going to
done.
executive session,
You're
I want to
done.
make sure we make a motion to have additional security. Thank
Sure.
you.
Very good. Councilman Ward B.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got a couple things. First and foremost, I want to thank the city for allowing our little group to participate in the Fright Fest this last year. I guess this is the third year that we've been involved in it, and it has every year grown. And this year, while we were there, I had at least a couple people tell me that they felt like there were more people there for the Fright Fest than what there was at Riverfest. So to the city, I want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of it. It is a shame that the facts didn't show up. Well, your coworkers didn't show up either. I'm just throwing that out there. Well, this would have sold newspapers, I guarantee you. The costumes on the kids this year were simply amazing. Just the amount of effort and the imagination that is put into these is incredible. I encourage you, next year, come, participate, experience it. It is a truly unbelievable experience. Now, city business. A month or two ago, we discussed the new lights that were put up on 10th and 11th Street, and Centerpoint was supposedly waiting for the 9th Street repairs to be done. That's pretty much wrapping up. Can we get with Centerpoint and see if we can get moving on that?
Yes, sir.
That's all, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Ward C. Madam Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to also thank all the residents, visitors who attended in person and viewed online. Thank you to all the residents who spoke during citizens' comments and agenda items. I too want to echo the Trunk and Treat and Fright Night Haunted House was awesome. I attended the Board of Adjustments meeting and then still had the time to make my way to that, to meet my family, and they had a blast. Lines were long, but they moved. I have pictures and videos of where the lines were wrapping around River Place. It was a great presentation by the city. It's volunteers. Best one yet. I don't think we can be outdone by any city when we put this on. To my items that I requested to have on the agenda, the high grass. And I'm pretty sure others on council are getting these reports of high grass throughout the city. Some are at vacant houses, and some are the elderly. I would like to know how code is dealing with these properties, and if they have received a citation, if we can start mowing these properties. Sorry, I didn't even see you walk up. Thank you, Ms. Roman.
No problem. To kind of explain the legal process of grass and weeds, so the way our ordinance reads is we have to wait till grass gets 12 inches high before we can even start addressing it with the owner. By law, we have to send the property owner that's on record at the Brazoria County Appraisal District a certified letter. We have to wait till the green card comes back and then give them 10 business days beyond that to take care of it by themselves. So very often, it gets up to 2 feet before we can even begin to start mowing it. We did have a problem with our contractor this year. We would call them, email them, contact them. A month would go by and they would not mow. We have the right to go on the property to mow and place a lien on the property after that time frame has expired, which, to be honest, that's normally around 45 days from start to end of the process. Luckily, we've got a couple of other contractors now, and they've spent, I think we did 10 mowing this week alone. So there's a lot that's been doing, but you're right, it gets about 2 feet high before code enforcement and the time is up. One of the things that I've directed my staff to do is to at least go by and put a door hanger on the door so that residents can see, because we see the posts and that they think the code enforcement's not involved. And a lot of our work is behind the scenes paperwork, the contact, the certified letters, the calls. I said to leave at least a door hanger, even on the vacant one, so that the neighbors are aware. We've been there, we're dealing with it. You don't see it, but it is definitely being taken care of.
One of the things, in addition to that actually we're shortening that up, is if there's been a property owner that's been notified, hasn't taken care of it, and we have to go in and mow it, if 3 weeks later it's back up to 12 inches, or a month later it's back up to 12 inches, we can skip all those steps and have it mowed right away, correct?
Yes, what we do is, we call it a 3-day notice, just as a courtesy. We do have the right, once every calendar year, we send the certified letter. After that, we could go in and mow their property at all times. We choose not to do that. So what we do is we post a 3-day notice, like on a Friday, that if they don't have it mowed by Monday, we're going to send the contractor in and do. We have about a 50% rate. People will mow and take care of it, but the out-of-town ones and the vacant houses, we end up having to mow.
So originally, and about a year ago, we actually went out for bids for mowing service, and there was one contractor that was selected. That contractor has not been performing, so now we have a list of about 3 or 4.
We're up 7 now.
Up to 7 different contractors.
We've been
that we
stopping and
can
asking
use.
locals to
So
bid.
when we contact them, they tell us if they're going to be able to take care of it within
3 business days.
3 business days. If they can't, then we'll go to the next contractor immediately. And if they say they can and they don't, then they will fall off that list.
Okay.
So we are doing, I know I approved POs this morning from last week, and I think that, like she said, there was probably about 10 different properties that had been mowed just last week. We're
Okay.
going to get very aggressive on that.
Okay, great. Because, like I said, I'm getting a lot of phone calls, I'm getting tagged in social media. And so I want to make sure that we are on top of, especially our public properties. I see some easements that need to be taken care of also, that the residents aren't taking care of like they should. And then the private, I see a lot of residents who are trying to help a neighbor, but it's not their job to mow their neighbor's property. And if they then say, hey, I've assisted, and, well, why don't you keep on the system? No, it's not their job. And so I want to know if what we're doing, so we can make sure that this is taken care of.
Well, and I always recommend that citizens, feel free to call and ask, because we've got 4 different sections of town. If they call our main line, Yvette knows exactly who's going to be responsible for that area. And we can tell them, it's all public record, it's open. If they give me, I'll say City Hall, if they give me City Hall address, we can look it up online and we can tell them, oh, that certified letter was sent, they've got 5 more days and then it's going to be mowed. So at least they'll know that something's being done. It's all public record.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. And then the last thing is street signs.
I think I should. Thank you, ma'am.
The 1700 block of 8th Street, there are some no parking signs on both sides. And that's the border between C and B. I've received quite a few phone calls from residents on both sides of that ward asking about these signs and their enforcement. And they have asked if we can have those removed because there are no other signs on 8th Street. And so I'd like to have planning and zoning have this issue taken up at their next meeting.
It's dangerous, it's a dangerous road. Cars go flying down that road.
Yep.
It's still narrow.
Yes.
Might be a little wider parts of State Street, but we recommend
And that's great feedback.
So in regard to that, that is the 1700 block of 8th Street between C and basically split between Ward C and Ward D?
Ward B.
Ward B. Between Ward B and Ward C.
Correct.
We can definitely take that to the Plan Commission for discussion and a recommendation.
Great. And then there are some stop signs at Varner and Avenue G. Residents, and they're not going east and west on Avenue G. They're on going north and south. The residents have asked if we can also do another planning and zoning, have those changed to yield signs, because it leads to the levee and away. So then.
This is at the intersection of Varner and Avenue G?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And then Yellowstone and Avenue M and Avenue O, have those stop signs changed to blinking stop signs, because at night, many people continue to drive past those stop signs into residents or businesses. I think I've asked about that once before, but if we need to.
We can take a look at that. That wouldn't need to go to the Plan Commission.
Okay. And so that's all for my street signs. And if any council member would like to have an item on the agenda, please CC me. I haven't been CC'd for anything. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Rosso, Ward D, announcements and comments.
Yes, as usual, D is doing good. I got some kudos for the haunted house, that's what I call it. My wife and I went to a haunted house, and we were really impressed with that, especially the costume contest. We also attended the Main Street shindig they had downtown Freeport. It was nice. We attended the Methodist Church, had a fish fry for the whole city of Freeport, and it was well attended. My wife and I also attended the Lanier Festival in the park, City Park, and it went over really well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Discussion and update regarding City Hall renovation and asbestos remediation. I'm going to move that into executive session, being that I think it involves a contract, potential contract debate now. So, Mr. Kelty, any other comments and announcements?
I just wanted to invite the public and the council. Mr. McGinty invited me to a flag retirement ceremony that's planned for November 18th from 12 to 4. He said you don't have to stay for the whole thing, but it'll be there right off of Yellowstone and near Avenue G, right behind 1827 Avenue G on the levee. But you're all welcome to come out to that ceremony, that flag retirement ceremony. And then also Gina with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce invited members of council to go to a Coca-Cola VIP luncheon, basically fostering relations with that company. It's November 17th at 11:30. It's in Houston. I did go ahead and forward you that email before the meeting, but please, if you could, sometime before noon tomorrow, let me know if you're interested in going, and I will RSVP for you.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Also, I want to make an announcement that my wife is retiring from the school district after 45 years. So life is about to change.
She said, if you can do it, I can do it.
I have a question for Mr. Kelty. I got there's a notice going around about the Veolia water being deemed, I guess, undrinkable, so we have another boil notice, and I'm just wondering, is that boil notice for the whole city that's current? There's currently a boil notice for the city, is that right? Can you provide some clarification on that?
I'm sorry, you're looking for clarification on?
Yeah, the notice from Veolia stated that there's a boil notice in place, and I'm just curious if that's for the whole city or not.
So there's a boil notice that's been issued for Slaughter Road that goes into effect on
13th,
the 13th. It is just for the Slaughter Road area.
just for Slaughter Road and Freeport Studios.
All right.
We're going to be changing out a valve there.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Kelty?
No, sir.
All right. Updates, reports, concerns from department heads. Number one, response from Kathy Ezell regarding Pena accusations. Ms. Ezell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I have a statement that I have prepared that I'm going to read you this evening. Before January 9th, 2023, Councilman Pena did not have an issue with my work or my work ethics. In fact, in a council meeting, he made a motion to terminate Tim Kelty and appoint me as interim city manager. For the record, this was done without my knowledge or consent. On January 9th, 2023, I stood before City Council under citizen comments and read an anonymous letter that I wrote to Mayor Bass on June 14th, 2022, concerning the behavior of Councilman Pena. The letter contained factual information on his attempts to direct staff, which violates the city's charter, section 3.08, and trying to bypass city policies. After reading this letter, I became a target of Councilman Pena. He stated in a council meeting that I needed to be fired. He would rant about me on Facebook. In the beginning, I didn't let his comments bother me. In the past 2 months, his posts have become more malicious in nature, and his accusations he are making are totally false. He has stated that I am corrupt. He has stated that I am changing contracts, creating budgets that will bankrupt the city, controlling the EDC, raising taxes and water rates for no other reason than to pay the salaries of the department heads. I am here before you tonight to set the record straight. I am not corrupt. I have been in government finance for 25 years. In my 25 years, I have fought corruption and fought for the citizens of the cities I have worked for. This is evident in my work history. I will not go into the long detail of my career, but if you would truly like to know about my career, then all you have to do is ask. I am a required reporter of fraud, misuse, and misuse of city funds under state law, as well as my GFOT Code of Ethics and city policies. I have no problems reporting fraud and misuse of city funds because I have done so many times throughout my career. I have told this city council and other city councils that I do not work for them, that I work for the citizens. I truly believe this and try to bring forth the best options for city council and the citizens. I did not play a role in the changes that were made between the EDC and Starbucks. I had no clue this even happened. When I heard of the allegations, I had to go ask the EDC person, was the contract changed? At that time, I was told yes. I am not part of a group controlling EDC. Excuse me, Mr. Pena, could you please pay attention? I am not part of a group controlling the EDC. I'm just their accountant. However, I have told the EDC board that if I disagree with a contract that is written where payments need to be made or payment of an invoice, I will cut the check, but I will not sign it. That is my right. Also, I rarely stay longer than any presentation of my items on the EDC agenda. I stayed for the entire meeting in October just to see if I was missing something based on Councilman Pena's comments. I wasn't missing anything that would have involved me as the EDC's accountant. The budget that was presented was based on the numbers that were provided by the department heads to keep the same service levels as 2023 at the new costs. The capital projects that were added were based on information provided by the department heads and city council. I did not make those decisions. It is my job to make sure that we are able to fund current operations and fund capital projects. If we are unable to do so I work with the city manager, department heads to make cuts. In fact, in the 2023 budget, I was one of the 2 department heads that cut staff to make the cuts that were requested of us. In the 2024 budget, will not bankrupt the city. This budget includes more information than any other budget has ever had. It includes a 5-year financial plan for the general fund and water sewer fund. The department head budgets include service indicators, and there are detailed definitions of all the accounts used. The water and sewer rate increase were based on the fact that the BWA increased their rates, federally mandated lead and copper rules, and cost overruns by Veolia. I've been very vocal with council that cost overruns are an issue. This year, I've caught Veolia trying to obtain a rate increase over what the contract would allow. I was the one who ensured that they didn't get away with it. Me. When I heard Councilman stated that he wanted to cut employee raises from the budget, I told numerous employees that I would give up my raise as long as the employees in the field and at City Hall could get a raise. You cannot slight those employees, and you cannot treat them badly. Also, for the record, I have sent Councilman Pena certified letters for hotel occupancy taxes twice. I have proof that the post office tried to deliver the second letter, but could not, and left a message, and he had until today to get with them, or it would be returned to me. So, the letter is being handled with Councilman Pena tonight. Because I've tried twice, and he refuses to coordinate with the post office because they tried, and he wasn't there, and they tried to get him to go, and he won't do it. If anyone is putting the funds of the city in danger, it is Councilman Pena. On October 28, 2023, Councilman Pena posted a copy of his check paid to him by the city of Freeport on Facebook. This copy included the city's routing number and account number. It was on for 24 hours before he took it down. This put the city's funds in danger. I expect council to question me, not accuse me. I'm honest. Every time I've asked questions by city council, I will even admit to city council when I make a mistake or don't know the information. I believe that if council is not asking me questions, they're not doing their job. Councilman Pena knows that I'm not allowed to respond on Facebook because the city has a social media policy, which he voted on. I can receive disciplinary action up to including termination for making posts on Facebooks that can be construed as defamatory to the city, employees, citizen, and council members. This last paragraph, I have worked long and hard to create a professional reputation. I will not idly stand by and watch someone try to ruin my career. I see his actions as retaliation for reading my letter on January 23rd, 2023, and asking questions presented by City Council concerning his lack of payment of hotel occupancy taxes. I will stand up for what is right no matter what it costs me. By the way, I wrote what I am saying tonight, not Mr. Kelty. Just like I wrote the letter in July 2022 and my complaint. I do not need Mr. Kelty or any man to help me in filing a complaint. Neither do I need Ms. Roman's assistance or input. It may come to us as a surprise in this age that an independent woman has the capacity to write her own complaint, letter, or speech. But I did not seek assistance or permission from Ms. Roman, Mr. Kelty, Mayor Bass, an attorney, a friend, or anyone else to write my complaint and the statements I've made tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we're going to go into executive session regarding consultation with attorney consultation.
Do I get to respond to that, Mayor?
No, sir.
Why not? Am I allowed to go to city attorney, or is that just by your decision? Your decision alone?
No, sir, it's not. Now,
What is it?
attorney consultation pending litigation styled and numbered City of Freeport, Texas versus Brass Tex Development LLC et al. Cause number 1203.
I'll be making a social media post to respond.
I'm sure you will.
I have to.
149th Judicial
That's the only way to get
Court,
transparency here.
Brazoria County, Texas. Personnel matters regarding complaints against Councilman Pena and discussion and update regarding City Hall renovation and asbestos remediation. I'd like at this time to make a motion to invite Mr. Kelty, Mr. Navarro, Mr. Bowles, Mr. Petty, and Ms. Ezell into executive session at the appropriate time. With that, so I made that motion. Is there
I'll
a second?
second it, Mayor.
Have a second for Councilman Matamoros.
I would advise it to include
Excuse me.
the chief
All
of
those-
police.
Excuse me, sir. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All
I
right,
make a
so,
motion for the police chief to be invited into executive session.
all right, we have a motion from Councilman Pena for the police chief to be invited in executive session. Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion
Silence is
fails.
complicit.
Thank you. Very good. And who's this gentleman? What was the last name? Laverne. Also, council, I need to make a motion that we allow Attorney Laverne in executive session as well.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second from Councilman Matamoros. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?